Hey everyone, it's Shannon and welcome back to the Also Archives. Please like and subscribe to this video if you enjoy it, and stay tuned for the next videos in this series, A Double Shot of Medical School Admissions. So just to kind of preface what this is going to be about, it's called a double shot because I applied to medical school twice and I also took the MCAT twice. So, and then also on top of that, I love coffee. I love a good latte. So that's kind of where I'm tying these two things together. Each episode is named of a different ingredient in coffee. And I'll kind of give a little overview of what I will discuss in each video. So episode 1 will be the coffee. So to me, the coffee is the substance. That's what you're coming to the coffee shop for. For the admissions committees, the coffee or the substance of your application is, of course, your GPA, your MCAT, and your clinical experiences. So all these things are important and they definitely make the backbone of your application. So that's what I'll be talking about initially. The second episode is the sugar. So to me, the sugar is what makes the coffee drinkable. I don't drink black coffee. I have to have a healthy amount of sugar in every cup that I drink. And to me, the sugar is what makes it good. It's what makes it stand out, and it makes it a good cup of coffee. For your admissions committees, the sugar of your application is your essays, how you are able to convey your interest in their program and how you are able to show that your experiences have shown that you truly, truly know that you want to be a physician. So that is the sugar of your application. And the last but not least, the final episode is the cream. So when you're thinking about coffee, cream comes in every flavor you can imagine. You know, the cream is seasonal. You can get vanilla, you can get hazelnut, you can get peppermint mocha. You know, you can make the coffee what you want it to be. In keeping with this metaphor with medical school, I believe that the cream of your medical school application is your interview. So the interviews are completely up to you. You can make them what you want it to be. You get to customize your approach and really kind of hone into the reasons why you want to go to the school and put your best face forward. So this has been just a quick overview of what each episode is going to be about. So please watch each one because I'm going to take a deep dive into each topic. So please stay tuned. So as I mentioned previously, I took the MCAT twice. The first time I took it, I had not completed all of my prerequisite courses, specifically physics and biochemistry I had not taken. So when I took the MCAT the first time around, I was not as prepared as I could have been. I did take an online Kaplan test prep course, which was good in a way, but still didn't provide the structure that I needed to really stay focused and stay on target with what I needed to complete, what content I needed to review, and things like that. So I think all of those factors together, lacking the prerequisites and not taking full advantage of the virtual prep course, were things that kind of led to my score being below average. But now fast forward a year later, I was in my master's program, which I did a whole video on, so please check that one out if you're interested in a post-bac master's program. But during my program, we were required to do a live test prep course, and this was offered through Princeton Review. So this course provided the structure, it provided the discipline that I really needed to focus on what I needed to do and what I needed to cover. And then by this time, I had, of course, taken all of my prerequisites, and I had begun to take master's level coursework as well. So all of these things worked together to strengthen my MCAT score, and I was able to improve from a 495 to a 506 ultimately on the MCAT. So my suggestions would be, if you can take a live course, to me the live course was much better than the virtual course. Just because I struggle more with content, the live course allowed me to ask questions easier and be able to, you can sit in class and actually get everything addressed. Versus online, you're more tempted to kind of sit back and and try to do everything on your own. So if you can do a live Princeton review course, I would highly recommend it. It was great and it really improved my score. Aside from that, I did a lot of individual studying the second time around. So I took the whole winter break off. I think it was like a month and a half. And I didn't come home for the holidays. I stayed and I studied on campus for 8 hours a day for the entire month and a half. And during that time, I did heavy content review as well as multiple full-length practice tests. So you can access the practice test through these review courses, and also the AAMC has practice tests that you can go online and actually purchase. So I did, I think, 8 in total, which is a lot. But to me, looking back on it, the repetitiveness of taking the courses and getting used to how the tests should be taken helps me a lot with my test anxiety and being able to keep myself focused for the long period of time that the test is given. So when you're doing your full-length practice test, make sure that you review every single question. I had notes and I would write down every question I did wrong, what was the topic that was addressed, and I would write them all down. And then the following day, I would review each of those topics one at a time to make sure that I was confident in each of those content areas. So I would suggest taking notes when you're doing your review and making sure that you are really understanding what questions are being asked and why each answer choice is wrong in the first place. Critical thinking and reading comprehension are super important for doing well on the MCAT. And this is for every single section. The way that I tackled this was by breaking down each paragraph and getting the main idea of each one. So after I would read a paragraph, I would try to write down a quick note about what that paragraph was about. And then I would do that for every single paragraph. That way, when I got to the questions, I could easily say, okay, this question is talking about XYZ, and paragraph 3 was talking about the same thing. So I can easily link the question to a specific paragraph, which will save time when you're trying to remember statistics and different things that were addressed in the passage. So reading comprehension is super important. Also, being able to eliminate erroneous answer choices. The MCAT is all about test strategy. So being able to look at the answer choices and pick out, okay, this one is completely irrelevant. This one is out of scope. This one has nothing to do with the topic, or this one is, too broad or too specific. Those are things you really need to get good at, because that'll help you at least narrow down to 2 answer choices. And if you get to 2, then you only have a 50-50 chance of getting it wrong at that point. So really trying to practice and being able to understand which answer choices are completely false will be able to help you eliminate and narrow down your options, and will make the test less daunting and easier to get through the questions quicker. Okay, so now the second piece of meat to your application is, of course, your GPA. That's the substance as well, along with the MCAT. So for me, I struggled a lot in undergrad. My undergrad GPA was a 3.3 overall and a 2.8 science GPA. My main issue in undergrad was that I did not reach out for help like I should have been. When I would struggle on exams, I would try to do everything on my own and try to study and figure out what I was misunderstanding on my own instead of seeking help from professors and tutors. So that was a big mistake on my part. I believe that if I did reach out early instead of late, that I would have been able to improve my performance and my GPAs would have been much higher. But as you can see, pre-meds know that GPAs that are low, like mine were, are not competitive for medical school. So with that in mind, I knew I had to do a post-bac program. So I did a whole video on that as I spoke of before. But once I finished that program, I actually did not improve my GPA as much as I had hoped to. I had a lot of external stuff going on with the passing of one of my really good friends and sorority sisters. With that, along with the rigors of the program itself, it was just, my performance was not as good as it should have been. So I finished with a 3.0 overall GPA in my master's program. So with all these things kind of under my belt and the numbers still not being where they needed them to be, I decided to continue to take more coursework, and I took courses at my local colleges and community colleges. So I think in total I took about 6 additional courses and was able to retake the prerequisites such as physics, chemistry, anatomy, and biochemistry. So I was able to retake those courses and get a 4.0 GPA. So all these things I did in an effort to show the admissions committees that, hey, you know, I know my undergraduate coursework, I struggled. I know in my master's degree program, I had some things going on and I didn't do as good as I should have been, but I'm still trying. I'm still working towards a stronger academic profile, and I'm trying to show you all that I'm not giving up, that I'm still willing to, you know, spend the money and put in the effort to get myself competitive. So that's what I did to improve my GPA. For anybody out there who has kind of had a similar track record as me, and you think that you don't have what it takes to get in, I would say that's absolutely false. You can do it. You just have to be motivated and focused enough to do whatever you need to do to get it done. Of course, I thought about stopping along the way and thinking about other options, but at the end of the day, there was nothing else I could see myself doing. So I'm like, okay, if this is what you want to do, you have to go and try to improve whatever way that you can in all the areas that you can. So keep going. If you're thinking about taking extra courses, do it. Try to take upper level sciences if you can take, you know, immunology, biochemistry, microbiology. All these courses are the upper level sciences, and these are the courses that the admissions committees want to see you succeed in. So if you can do those at A, B level, that will really improve your standing and increase your chances of getting admissions interviews and acceptance offers. So the next piece of substance to your application is getting strong letters of recommendation. So to me, clinical experiences and letters of recommendation go hand in hand. If you don't have strong clinical experience, it will be difficult to get strong letters of recommendation. But if you have tons of clinical experience, you have tons of exposure with physicians and medical professionals, that means that you've been able to build relationships with these people, and they will have no problems with writing you a solid letter of recommendation. For me, I was a medical scribe. I worked as an EMT. I had a research publication and had met a lot of good people, good physicians along the way that I had shadowed. So all of these people I had in my corner who I was able to quickly reach out to, and I knew that they would have my back and write a strong letter of recommendation. I know a lot of people, and even for me, when I was reaching out to physicians, I thought, oh, they're not going to remember me. You know, they won't remember who I was and how hard I worked, but they do. They'll remember you. If you send them a quick email update, who you are, just jogging their memory, they will remember, and they will be more than happy to write a letter for you. Another thing with letters of recommendation is you get kind of nervous when you're reaching out to people, but then also when you ask them and they say yes, you feel like, oh my gosh, what if they don't do it in time? Or, you know, they're not getting back to me. I've asked for letters 3 months ago and they haven't gotten it to me. It's okay to send them reminders and reach out to them. A lot of them they're so busy and they have good hearts, but they just have a lot of other things that they're doing in their day-to-day life as practitioners. So you have to be okay with reaching out to them. It's not getting on their nerves. You're not bothering them. They actually see it as, okay, she's on it, he's on it. They know what they need me to do, and I just have to get it done. So sending those reminders will help them and will only help you to get your letters on time. So don't feel afraid to reach out and ask for them, like, hey, don't forget my letter's due in another week. They'll get on it and they'll do it as long as you remind them. With that being said, even though I knew these physicians would write my letter, I still was very anxious because I was like, okay, they're so busy, they might forget. What if they don't send it in time? I was just worrying about them actually getting the letter to me. So for people who are anxious about getting their letters on time, do not feel any type of way about reaching out to these providers. It's okay to send them updates. It's okay to send them notes and emails and say, hey, my letter is due in 2 months, or I'm applying and I need the letter right away. As soon as you can get to it, I'll greatly appreciate it. They're so busy that it's not personal. They just have a lot of things on their plate. So the reminder is absolutely okay to send them a reminder. It's only going to help them get your letter quicker. And another thing to kind of combat this is to ask them way in advance. So I think that when I was initially thinking about applying, I already had a list of recommenders that I wanted to ask. So I think I asked them like 6 months ahead of time that my application would be submitted. So that way it was a cushion there. So even if they were a couple of weeks, a couple of months late, I still had my letter on time. So there's ways that you can get around them being busy. Just ask them ahead of time and kind of get it in their head early that you're going to ask them for a letter, and they will start kind of taking notes and figuring out what they want to talk about and what they want to share about you in the letter. And specifically as a re-applicant, I did use a few of my previous recommendations on my second application. So what I did for those is I sent updates, I scheduled Zoom meetings with my recommenders, and I just spent time sharing with them what I had done between my last application and my current application and what had changed, what I had learned, and all that. So that way they were able to update my letters and kind of set their case of why I've improved and why I should be offered admissions this time around. So don't think that as a reapplicant you have to get all new recommendations. You can use your same physicians, your same mentors, but just try to get them to update their letters and explain, what you have done to improve and the changes that you've made so that can be conveyed to the admissions committees. My favorite part of the application cycle was deciding which schools to apply to. So for me, I consider this the substance of your application because the schools that you decide to apply to can either make or break your probability of getting an acceptance. If you're applying to schools that are like way out of range or schools that aren't good fits, the likelihood of you getting in is going to be less than if you take the time to really apply to schools that fit you, fit your personality, and are within your statistics range and GPA ranges. So for me, the first time I applied to medical schools, the only thing I looked at was GPA and MCAT. So if the school was like above a 3.5 GPA and above a 5.10 MCAT, I wouldn't even apply. And even if these schools were like, oh my gosh, I would love to go here, I would let the GPA and MCAT restrict me from applying altogether. I wouldn't even consider it. But the second time around, I looked at the mission statements of each school. So of course the GPA and MCAT were factors, but I didn't let them hold me back from putting my hat in the game, if you could say. But initially it was mission statement. What is the school's values? What are students saying about their time at this school? So what I really did and what I really enjoyed as part of my research is I would actually reach out to current students who attended these schools. So I would kind of go on Instagram and Facebook and search for the school's Instagram pages, for example. And I would go and find students who were following that page and be like, hey, I'm applying to this school and I would love to get your insight and your experiences and what you enjoy, what you don't like about the school. And I use those conversations to really kind of see, okay, can I see myself going to this school? Do I have a good conversation with the students? How did they like the school? What are the pros and cons? And can I deal with those things? So doing that gave me a lot of insight into what these schools were like on the inside. And you can really see, okay, does the mission statement and what the school is saying match up to what their students are saying? So I would suggest when you're trying to pick schools to apply to, of course, look at your GPA, look at your MCATs and see what the averages are, the highs and lows, and whether you are competitive. But do not let the GPAs and MCATs hold you back. If you find a school that you really love, the students speak highly of it, and you think that the school is a good fit for you, I would say go ahead and apply and see what you can do. In the next video of episodes, I'll talk more about how you can tailor your essays to each school. But I think that finding a good mission fit with these schools and being able to convey that when you apply can make all the difference in the world and can really outweigh whatever statistic you think is not good enough. If you can show that, look, this school is where I want to be, the school will see that in you as well. So just do your research, do deep dives into these programs, and really do pros and cons lists of every school before you decide to apply like all willy-nilly. Both times I applied to over 30 schools. So it's a lot, and it's a lot to have to do when you start getting applications back and have to do essays. So that's another reason why you want to make sure that every school on your list is a school you will be happy with. So it's okay to apply to 30 schools if you want, or 50 schools, or maybe even just 10 schools, but make sure that they are good fits for you and that you've thought long and hard about whether or not you can actually see yourself at these institutions. So this has been my first episode, the coffee, the substance of your medical school application, which I think is overall your GPA, your MCAT, your letters of recommendation, and your schools that you decide to apply to. All of those things are super important to getting rolling and getting your application started. And all of this stuff is done before you even really apply. Your research, your letters, locking down your letters, your GPA and your MCAT are all what you can do ahead of time of even submitting your application. So make sure you put in the effort into those things, and I think that will set you up for a strong and convincing medical school application. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you were able to make it through the entire video. If not, that's okay. I know everyone's looking for something different. And again, these are my opinions alone. I'm not speaking on anybody else's. This is just from my experience. So I hope you have gained from it. And please subscribe, please like if you enjoyed the video. And stay tuned for the next 2 episodes of this series, a double shot of medical school admissions.